Welcome back to another episode of Street Level with Chris Chermak. Almost forgot who I was there for a minute. We just taped a great show. We have Kathy Barnette running for state senate in Pennsylvania. Kind of got a little off the rails at the end. Kathy decided she wanted to interview my producer, Mark, and we had a lot of fun. So here's Kathy. So Kathy, great to have you here today.
Thank you.
Running for U.S. Senate, state of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
I know you're traveling all over. You're doing a great job.
We are.
Why'd you want to do this?
Oh my goodness. Everyone asked that question because we must, right? Prior to running, there was this Edmund Burke's quote that I would hear people quote all the time. The only thing that is necessary for evil to prevail is for good people to do nothing. And I really began to really think about that. I took it to heart, is that that's the problem with our country today. So many good people have been sitting on the sidelines, not good, not bad, but we've been living our own lives, running our businesses, paying our bills, sending our kids off to school, trying to retire. And as a result of us not being engaged, we've created a vacuum, and that vacuum is being filled by some of the most despotic and ridiculous ideologies. We did not get to where we are today by osmosis. It's as a direct result of good people not being engaged, not doing their part as much as we should have. And so the reason why I'm running is because we must get off Facebook. We must get off the couch. Turn off Tucker Carlson, as much as I love him, and get engaged. And that's what we're doing. And I'm showing our people how to fight in the battle in which we find ourselves in.
Right. Well, so I came from the business world. My family has an automobile dealership, and I was third generation. And I was never I'm not a politician. I'll never consider myself a politician. And I got into it for the same reason. It's good people don't want to do this, and we need good people.
Well, politics is ugly. It is. It's
a dirty game.
It's a blood sport.
Yeah,
no one's your friend. You
Yep.
could almost suffer from schizophrenia if you're not careful, because it's like someone says something to you and you're like, well, what do you really mean by that? Did they mean it this way or that way?
Right.
But I have surrounded myself by the grace of God with some really great people. My inner circle is very small, but we have some really good people in this nation, and specifically here in Pennsylvania. We are traveling over 1,500 miles every single week. Today alone, we're doing over 400 miles. This is my first stop on what's going to be a very long day, but I'm meeting some of the best people. Republicans, we're not perfect, but there's no one running a close second to this party and to the people in this party. No. And so we must be engaged.
Well, so I want everybody, I know some of your story because we've been together a few times, but
yes.
You, U.S. Army veteran,
yes.
right?
But it didn't start there.
Right. So we'll start from where you want to start.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll start here. It started on a little pig farm in southern Alabama. I grew up in a home with no insulation, no running water, an outhouse in the back, and a well on the side. I often tell people we were so poor, we couldn't afford the other O. We were just po. We were. It was so ridiculous. But as a child, I was loved. And so when you're a child and you're loved and you're protected, you have no idea how dire your situation is, but it was. But even in that, as a Black woman married to a Black man raising Black babies, I'm constantly comparing and contrasting how my children are growing up today versus how I grew up. I grew up in the very deep south of Alabama. There were a number of reasons for my family to complain. And yet I don't remember one time anyone in my family ever calling me a victim. I don't remember one time anyone looking at me and saying, Kathy, because you're Black, because you're a woman, because you're poor, all the odds are against you. I don't remember that. Versus what my own babies are growing up today. My children are living very privileged little lives, and I am unapologetic about it. I'm so grateful to God that this country has allowed me the opportunity, my husband and I, to create a new narrative for our family, right? But in today's America, if you close your eyes, you would swear, these are Jim Crow law days. And it's not, right? Our country is not perfect. But again, no one is running a close second. This is the only country where we're continuously progressing, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and doing better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you didn't know any better and you're just listening to mainstream media with Black Lives Matter, Antifa, Democrat Party, you would think we're back in the throes of slavery or, at least Jim Crow. And that's just not the case. But because of all of that, my family never giving me a psychology of lack, I became the first in my family to go and finish college, spent 10 years in the military where I was accepted into Officer Candidacy School, time in the financial industry, corporate America, adjunct professor of corporate finance, an author of my first book, went #1 on Amazon, Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain, Being Black and Conservative in America. Homeschooled my kids, a lot of different journeys, and now I'm running for U.S. Senate, only in America.
Right. It's a great story. It really is.
Well, and it's a story that I hear time and time again, especially as we're out here over 1,500 miles a week, is that, the nuances may be different, but you hear that arc in my story.
Mm-hmm.
I clawed my way from underneath a rock.
How did you get to Pennsylvania? Like, what brought you here?
I followed my husband.
Okay. All right. Well,
look, feminist heads are exploding right now. But yes, I followed my husband.
Well, that's all right.
I was a stay-at-home mom. I had I've done a lot of different things in my life, but I saw 8 years ago what most people are just now seeing today. And my family and I 8 years ago decided to start homeschooling our kids. We've always lived in really great school districts, but they were woke, right? Either they were teaching my 5-year-old at the time, they were trying to teach her about, different family configurations, which is buzzword for the homosexual agenda. Or they were, teaching my children, about white privilege, which the opposite of that is that Black people have no privilege, right? That Black people are inferior.
I haven't figured out the white privilege for myself yet. I work every day of my life, so I don't know.
So you didn't get that. So you didn't get that email about all your privilege.
Not. I don't. No, I didn't get that.
Yeah, but
my father's 80 years old. He still works like every day. Works very hard at the car dealership.
Well, we all have. Privilege exists. Like I just said,
does.
my children are growing up very privileged. My babies have no idea what it feels like to sit in a dark room because my single parent mother cannot pay for both the rent and the light bills, right?
Yeah.
My babies have never opened up the refrigerator door and it was empty on the inside, right? So I consider that privilege, and I am unapologetic about it, that this country has afforded me and countless others who grew up under a rock to be able to create a new life. But that America that allowed me the ability to do what I've done is about to come to a close under the very ridiculous regime of the Democrat Party. They control everything. We were looking at our sewer bill last night. It is high. Yeah. We're looking at our heating bills. It is high. To fill our car up with gas, it is high. And Democrats can change it tomorrow.
Yes, they can.
If they wanted to. But in order for them to do that, they would have to admit that they have been wrong about absolutely everything. And what are the odds of them doing that?
Pretty much zero, I would think.
And so instead, they're telling us to just eat cake, right? They're telling us, they're giving us these little hashtag Putin gas hikes, hashtag oil executive gas hikes. No, it is Democrats and their utterly ridiculous policies that they have imposed upon all of us.
Yep. I don't know what their ultimate goal is. Just destroy our country. I'm not sure. I haven't figured it out yet.
Well, either it's that or they're just stupid. So
there's definitely some of that.
Or C, all of the above. But one of the things I know that these are not stupid people.
They're not.
So you have to truly consider what it is that they are doing. You can just look at the energy policies that they are adopting. We can provide for ourselves and we can make our country strong again. National sovereignty, personal freedom. We could do those things just with what we're producing here in Pennsylvania alone.
Yep.
But instead of doing that, they are requiring us to cut off our own nose, despite our face, shut off, cripple our own ability to provide energy resources. And then they're asking us to get on our hands and knees and go beg Venezuela,
Right.
Iran, Saudi Arabia, Russia to give us what we could do for ourselves. Why are they doing that?
It's Pennsylvania. From what I understand, Pennsylvania would be, if we work to our capabilities and what we could do with energy, we would be number 5 in the world in producing gas, natural gas. And we're not doing anything. We want windmills, which we could. I'm okay with windmills and solar power, but that's only a tiny, tiny percentage of what is usable. So that's a waste. We need to get drilling holes and bringing gas out of the ground. We have to.
Doing what we need to do. Listen, in Pennsylvania, roughly 50% of our energy source comes from natural gas.
Right.
Less than 4% of our energy source comes from renewable energy. So I could have respect for Democrats if they weren't such hypocrites, because if they were not hypocrites and they really believed in climate change, right, and that it's the existential threat of the universe today, then they would say, let's get rid of all fossil fuel and let's just live on the less than 4% energy we get from renewables. Now, of course, the overwhelming majority of us would die, but let's be true and let's just live off this less than 4% until we work our way back up to 100% of, our energy source coming from renewables. But they're not saying that. They're saying, Kathy, get rid of fossil fuel, get rid of natural gas, oil, and go beg and get it from Saudi Arabia.
From somebody else.
From someone else. That's the hypocrisy of these people, because it's not like they're saying, for example, we reduced under the Biden administration, we reduced our fossil fuel, our oil and gas by 800,000 barrels a day. Guess where we went and got it from instead? Russia. Because if you just saw a couple of weeks ago, we decided to cut off the 800,000 barrels of oil that Russia provides us on a daily basis. So Biden comes in, they do this big parade of how they're going to shut off 800,000 barrels of oil that we're producing, but they don't say, now let's just get it from renewables. No, they go to Russia, our enemy, according to Democrats.
Right.
And Russia is no friend of America, but according to Democrats, they are enemy number 1. But they went to enemy number 1 and said, give us what we have decided to not do for ourselves. That is stupidity. But I don't think they're stupid. I think these people are very smart. I think they have an agenda, and I think they are working on that agenda.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The one of the excuses is, the environment. Well, we do it clean in the United States, and especially in Pennsylvania.
No one does it cleaner than America.
Nope. So how are they helping the environment? They're not.
They're not. They're crippling us.
Well, when you're out knocking on doors and seeing people, which, by the way, reminds me, was not that long ago. My son, which he'll be mad at me, but too bad. He doesn't like when I talk about him. He's in medical school outside of Philly, which he's almost done. This is a couple weeks and he'll be finished. But you knocked on his door, and out, like I said, it was north of Philly, and he loved it. You're one of his favorite people.
Oh, I love it.
So say hi to Michael, because
hello, Michael.
and he's thrilled that you're here today. But what's the responses you're getting? What are the questions that you get from people when you're out in the public, just regular people?
Yeah. Well, again, we're doing over 1,500 miles. No one is doing that, right? I have these carpetbaggers who have parachuted into our state. They're not out there with the people. They have no idea what it means to be a Pennsylvanian. They have no idea what people are really thinking or talking about, because as we're out here on the road, a couple of things that strikes me. So 1,500 miles, going into a lot of rooms. One of the last rallies we did in Lancaster County on a Tuesday night in the middle of a cow field, we had over 1,400 people at that event, right? And what's interesting, when I go into these rooms, more than half of the people have never been involved in politics before 2020.
Right.
That is amazing. And
Yep.
I keep trying to warn the Republican Party, get ready for a breath of fresh air. There's a lot of new people who are coming to this party because of what they saw in 2020 and what they have lived through over these last 2 years. So these people are, and the other thing that I'm noticing is that they feel squeezed. People feel unnerved. People feel very unsure. Overwhelmingly, people feel as though something fundamentally has gone wrong with how our nation is being ran. We see the hypocrisy. I don't know if you saw Nancy Pelosi just came out and said she has COVID.
Yeah.
That's why she can't go to Taiwan right after China said you better not go to Taiwan. But then just this Friday, we saw her kissing Biden on the cheeks, on the cheek at the confirmation of of the new Supreme Court justice, right? Look at that hypocrisy. You have COVID, but now you're at a super spreader because of her age. She is at a higher risk than most of us. She should be at home in her basement with her $1,000 thing of ice cream and just staying away from everyone. But we see her kissing Biden on. So people see the hypocrisy, right?
But that's okay. They're okay with that.
You know, I mean, it is unnerving because people have lost. Over 1 million small businesses have gone out of business because of how Democrats have mishandled COVID. We saw at the beginning of December last year, Biden come out declaring death to all Americans because people didn't want to get the jab. They were unsure about the jab. He did not provide any therapeutics. I'm sure the same therapeutics that Pelosi is on right now. They did not make it widely available to majority of Americans. This is just not the way our country should be ran. No. And I'm so upset with the lives that have been lost, the businesses that have been destroyed, what they have done to our children. Brown University did a study showing that those children born during the pandemic, their IQ is 2 standard deviations below those born before the pandemic. You cannot make that gap up. And Democrats are out here talking about how they love Black people and they have put their foot down their throat. Once it was on their throat, now they're shoving it down Black people's throats because that 2 standard deviation is on top of what was already lost in the overwhelming majority of these Black communities. So we have real problems. They're out here kissing and jiving with one another and telling the rest of us to go eat cake, right? And it's unacceptable.
Well, it is. And even you talk about the news. Just this morning, there's a shortage of baby formula. So they're starting to ration that. I mean, this third world country issues now. That it shouldn't even be happening. How do you run out of toilet paper when that even happened? Like, stuff that goes on just boggles my mind. We were on top of the world when President Trump was here, and in a matter of a year and not even a year, we were like the laughing stock of the world. Yes. So we got to get back on track.
The rest of the world see what we see. Biden is a clown. Well, he is incompetent and undisciplined.
He's been there for 50 years. He's never done anything.
He's been in office longer than I've been alive.
Well, he's the native son of Scranton, Pennsylvania.
I see y'all changed one of your major streets. I mean,
I try not to drive on that road if I don't have to, but whatever. That's border crisis. How about that?
I was just about to say that. Title 42. What about that?
Yep.
Let me tell you, last year we had 1.7 million unlawfully present people come into our country, right? This year, November, December, January, and February, we have had 2.3 times more unlawfully present people come into our country this year than we did last year. We're on track for 4 million unlawfully present people, unlawfully present aliens coming into our country at the end of October of this year. Yeah. Now, unlawfully present aliens mean those we have come in contact with, right? This does not account for those who are the biggest and the baddest of the bunch who have gotten into our country and we don't know who they are, right? So you take 4 million and put an exponent on top of that. Now, adding insult to injury, Biden has done 2 draconian things. He has removed Title 42 Title 42 is what President Trump put in place because of COVID, right? So because we have COVID, we need to be able to turn people around because COVID is here. We don't need to have new people coming into our country. What Biden has said, well, we're going to remove Title 42, which stopped about 55% of the people from getting into our country. So we're going to remove Title 42 because COVID is not at the border. But he's going to keep the emergency mandates on the rest of us because COVID is everywhere else. COVID just isn't at the border. So we're going to remove Title 42, which was placed because of COVID and to stop the flow of people, and it stopped 55% of the unlawfully of illegals coming into our country. We're going to remove that. So now that's a signal for the rest of third world countries to come into our country, talking about us going third world. I will say these are not the best and the brightest that are coming into our country. We don't know who these people are. We don't know where they're going. We have every right to know who are you? Where are you coming from? Why are you here? Do you even like us? There is nothing racist about that. There is nothing dispassionate about that. We have every right as Americans to know that, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
But on top of that, removing Title 42, Biden has just decided he has put in his budget request for next year, and he has decided to remove 25% of the funding. So he has closed down a facility that held these illegals in Alabama. Now, why is that important? Why should we care? Because since Obama, we no longer detain illegals solely because they crossed our borders illegally. We only detain illegals for long periods of time because they are either rapists, serial offenders of DUI, or they're on the terrorist watch list, or some other really bad reason.
Right.
So imagine he is now reducing the number of beds, reducing the budget, shutting down facilities in Alabama that held these particular people. He's now going to just slap ankle bracelets on them or give them a phone so they can check in with the court.
Right.
What kind of Alice in the Wonderland hole have we fallen
I don't know.
into?
So we, and locally here, and it's not just here, but it's an issue here because of flights coming in. Like it was Christmas Eve. I think there was a flight came in at 10 o'clock at night and then they secretly had buses and they were gone. Yeah. Nobody knew anything about it. We don't know who they were, where they went.
And you're a racist for even bringing it up.
Well, yeah, apparently.
So shut up, sit down, be quiet.
I just heard that the governor of Texas is going to start busing the illegals to Delaware.
Well, they've been saying that for a while. I'm tired of that. Do it already, right? We need. I mean, we've been saying that for a while. I am so sick and tired, even on our side, where we have people who run in front of television screens, beat their chest, take a viral video, put it on Facebook for fundraising activity, right?
Yep.
Our nation is in trouble. Our nation is being destroyed from within.
Yep.
We often say China is our number one enemy. China is a formidable foe, but China could do nothing with America if we were not being destroyed from within. No, this is the greatest country that has ever existed. But right now we're in trouble, not because of from without. It's from within that we're being destroyed. And we need better representation. That is the reason why I'm running. I am you, and I am your best chance at ever getting anyone in office who will actually listen to you, fight for you. I know the issues beyond the talking points. And that's why I need your listeners to go to barnette4senate.com, donate, share my information, like me on all social media pages, and get the word out, because the media is trying to convince us there are only two carpetbaggers in this race. Both of them are dumb and dumber. It is, there is no choice among them. I am your best chance. Well, and I am proving that on a daily basis.
So with this upcoming election, we had issues with mail-in ballots. Drop boxes here are an issue. What are your thoughts there? We had a thing in place here in this Pennsylvania. We had absentee ballots. You need identification. You get your absentee ballot and you mail it in. What was wrong with that? Why did we have to come up with a separate mail-in ballot? Why do we need drop boxes? We have 6 drop boxes throughout Lackawanna County, which I fight against them all the time. We have U.S. post office boxes on every street corner. Just mail your ballot if you can't go to the poll. It just gives, in my mind, it gives them an opportunity to cheat. So we have that to look forward to.
And we know Democrats cheat. But all of a sudden, we're supposed to be like, oh, we can't say that, right? It's like trying to say the word grooming. You can't say that anymore, right? And yet we know these things are happening.
Absolutely.
We got to use common sense.
Yep.
We got to use common sense.
Common sense isn't that common if you think about
You know what? I mean, but you know what? But people know, right? What does it mean to be a woman? We all know what it means to be a woman. And yet we do backflips and we do contortion acts in our mind to convince us we don't know, right? Why is that? Because we have become cowards. And let me tell you who said it first, John Adams. He said, our Constitution is made only for moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate for any other kind. The word moral simply means people who know the difference between right and wrong. He said religious because he too knew that this nation was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. And the only way I would know the difference between right and wrong is if I'm looking to a moral lawgiver, right?
Yep.
Who can direct me on right and wrong. I didn't say that. John Adams said it. So if you don't like it, go dig him up and talk to him about it, right? But then he drops down in that letter to his wife, Abigail, and says, and I'm paraphrasing, when our nation becomes so filled with people who are, he called it unwarranted chivalry, people who are tolerant for no reason at all. When our nation becomes filled with people who become tolerant of some of the most intolerable behaviors, he said, we will begin to move through the Constitution like a whale moves through a net.
Yeah.
That is where we are. We have become tolerant of some of the most intolerable behavior because we think if I stick my head in the sand and don't say anything, then somehow this would just pass right over me. You need to start taking a strong look at Venezuela. You need to take a strong look at China. You need to take a strong look at some of these communist, totalitarian, Romania nations that was once free. And now they are no longer.
Yep.
And the ones who are trying to stick their head in the sand is going to come back and hit you the hardest.
No, people have to wake up. I talk about, when I'm in front of people, I talk about the word hero. We've lost touch of what hero really is. Army veterans, our police, our EMS people, our fire people. You know, we look at, I watch the news, and the heroes on the news are the guy that thinks he's a woman that won in the collegiate swimming races.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's
not brave.
No, that's
not brave.
That's insanity.
What's
that's
brave
insanity.
is if he, just removed the male body parts and then, get on, something that would depress or suppress all of those hormones that makes him formidable and beating women, right? I mean, it is not rocket science to know what it means to be a woman. Clue number 1, I am a woman.
Right.
Why am I a woman? What makes, just by observation alone, what makes me a woman and you a man? Me walking into a room, I'm a woman. Why is that?
Well, I pretty much can tell right away.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And when you walk into a room, I know just by observation alone, there is something different about you than me. Now, if you put a wig on and grow your nails out and put fingernail polish on and put a skirt on, does that make you a woman?
No.
No, it is more than being a woman.
Aren't we supposed to follow the science? Isn't that what they're telling us?
I mean, hey, because I can look at your cells and tell that there's something fundamentally and scientifically different about you. You have 7 times more testosterone in your cells, each cell. We're talking about nano.
Well, they can tell a man from a woman just from a skeleton.
Ooh, why is that?
Well, because
you're a phobic.
Right.
You're one of these phobics. You're white. You're a man. You're dominant. And we don't like you. So we just got to get over it.
Yeah.
We just got to get over
so what
it.
Do you
this
think,
is stupid.
What do you think about our new Supreme Court justice? She really didn't know how to explain that.
I think that's a problem, right? I mean, because again, either she's stupid and that alone should disqualify her, or she has become politicized.
Right.
Right. And so it's either one. It's not all of the above. It's one or the other. Either you're so stupid and you don't know what a 2-year-old would be able to walk into a room and identify, or you're being politicized. Yep. Which one is it?
You got it right. It's politicized. Absolutely.
And do we need more of that?
Negative. Definitely not.
We are in an identity crisis in this country, right?
Yep.
I love all people. I want all people to do well. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what your color is. I don't care what your orientation. I don't care. What I do care about is this thing called law and order, because our nation does not exist apart from the Constitution. And right now we're moving through it based on emotions, right? We need a set of law, a set of order, or we're going to look a whole lot like what's going on in Philadelphia right now with the crime. It's just a tremendous amount of foolishness.
Yep.
And so, listen, I want everybody to do well, but in order for you to do well, I want to do well too, right? Yep. The Constitution that protects you, guess what? It protects me as well.
Well, and people have to realize they're responsible for their own actions. You know,
and some things are just stupid.
Yep, you got that.
Something just doesn't make any sense, right?
Well,
and we have to begin to incorporate that. When I say I am teaching our people how to fight, I mean it, right? I'm not rude. I'm not disrespectful. You will never see me. There's nothing out there where you will see me being disrespectful and ugly and practicing a tremendous amount of ad hominems. Now, of course, I practice a little ad hominem because people on the far left are just dumb. and it's just stupid, and I'm not following that, right? You're not going to get me to say something that I don't believe. At some point, we have to draw a line in the sand and say, right here, I'm going to stand. On this patch of ground, I'm going to take a stand. And I believe most Americans, and specifically Pennsylvanians, are thirsty for that. They're wanting that. They're craving that. I see it all the time. And it's not just among Republicans. It's among all people. I am seeing it. They're looking for someone to stand up and say, the emperor has no clothes on. I am that person.
Well, and you're proving it today. This is we're taping this today, but it's a Saturday morning. It's early. You have a busy day ahead of you, 7 days a week, and it's going to take somebody like you that's going to make a difference.
Yes.
So appreciate all that you're doing. I wish you all the best. Keep up the great work. I'm sure I know I'll see you around somewhere again before this is all over. But really, you're doing a great job, and appreciate everything you're doing. And good luck. So
thank you so much.
And thank you.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, so listen, I was sitting in here being interviewed by someone else.
Commissioner Chris Chermak.
Yes. a lot of people.
I know.
And Mark is the producer sitting in the corner. And then once I was done, Mark started telling me his story about how he was a flaming liberal in 2020.
Well, I don't know if I was on fire, but I was pretty hot about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He drank the Kool-Aid.
And I said he drank the Kool-Aid, the commissioner
totally
said. And so I wanted to kind of flip the script and put you on the hot seat. Not really the hot seat, but I would love for you to share, because you said something to me when I finished. You said,
I used to be a liberal.
But what matters to me, you said,
I don't remember. What did I say? I was a lapse.
You gonna vote for me?
I said I'm probably gonna vote for you. Yeah.
No, you didn't say probably.
Oh, then I will.
Okay, good.
Well, I don't want you to know. Then it feels like
no, I need to know because I'm running. But what I think is more important is, people need to hear, because you said something. We think sometimes that in order to prove our point on our side, on the Republican side, the conservative side, when we need to prove our point, or if you're on the Democrat side, the liberal side, if you want to prove your point, we have to be nasty. We have to practice ad hominems. We have to just be all up in your face and be aggressive. But you said something else was a seed that was planted that caused you, I'm going to use flaming liberal.
Yeah, you can say that.
To get off that side and start moving to now you have in 2 years changed your registration to Republican. What was it what was that seed that caused you to say, wait a minute, something is different here?
It's so weird. It feels like I'm coming out.
It feels like I think it had a little something to do with me.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So during the midst of what I really realized was it was March 16th, 2020, when the Secretary of Health of Pennsylvania put all the nursing home patients back into the nursing homes. I said, I'm not a smart person, but that seems dumb. And from there on, it was about a month of fear. And then I started to realize that something's awry and something's strange about what's going on. And then in the midst of it all, County Commissioner Chris Chermak called me, and I was terrified. I was like, I'm never going to get it. I was not essential. I wasn't allowed to work. I couldn't no one would work with me because I do video. So when they work with me, they're like, people will know that we're on camera. We're violating rules. We're doing this. We're doing that. And I thought he was calling me, honestly, silence your cell phone, Bob.
Oh my goodness, Bob.
So I actually thought he was calling me for work. I was like, oh yeah, he's just like, so I was kind of disappointed when he's like, how are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm great. Is this for work? And he's like, no, I just want to see if you're okay. And that really changed to have somebody like Chris call me up, who's kind of a nobody in my mind, and care about me. But you do, man. Like, you care about people in a way that, like, I don't see a lot of people care about people. And it started to make me wonder, like, about Republicans, because I've always thought you all were evil and you were bad people.
Right.
And what I slowly started to realize is this is the team I should have leaned towards the entire time.
Right.
And I always, like, when I was a liberal, right? I hope you guys don't judge me for this, right?
No judgment.
Okay.
No judgment. Safe space.
So when I was a liberal, I would always hear people like Republicans are crazy. Just look at them. Look at that. Like, look at the people that are in the group. And what I realized was, like, conservatives welcome everybody into the group. They don't judge. They don't criticize. I mean, they do, but like human beings do.
Right.
But to the degree that, like, what's the word for this? It seems like the left wants to focus on the differences in all of us, because then we can always focus on the differences in all of us instead of focusing on the 99.9% of things that we all have in common, which is basically love. Don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
Those are easy things to do. And I just, it honestly, like, it makes me, I actually feel happier now that I left.
It's making me feel emotional.
That's all right.
That is so cool, because it truly is about life and death. It's people, and people just wanting to be loved, just wanting to be able to provide for their family, and just be able to do the right things. And yet there is something so insidious about what's taking place in our country that just focuses on the differences and then puts a magnifying glass over those differences and just cause everyone to look at those differences. And it's not making us better.
No. And if you look at the cost benefit analysis on politics in this country right now, it seems like on one side, it's a futile effort as far as ultimately how happy you're going to be in your life. If you focus on just the misery of everything all the time, you will be miserable. It's like being in what do they call those people who get kidnapped and then start to empathize with, like, their kidnappers? Stockholm syndrome. It seems like a Stockholm syndrome where you're like, oh no, they welcomed me in and they gave me things when I didn't know. And it's like, you never needed that. You always had that inside of you. You always had the ability to love yourself. You always had the ability to love other people. When you start telling people that these people that you don't know hate you for reasons that you have never experienced, or these people are trying to keep you down for reasons that you have never experienced, and you pass judgment on that, and you put the umbrella over everybody, that's dangerous. I think that's a dangerous psychopathy to parlay into human beings' mind. Because at the end of the day, what I realized about America, this is the hard thing that I realized about America, is that no one is supposed to have control over your mind and your heart. And when you see what they're doing right now, they're trying to have control over your mind and your heart. And what that makes you be is a terrible person. Because if you don't have the ability to listen to other opinions and have empathy, you're in big trouble as a human being, because the human experience is different from all of us, and we don't get out of this alive. At the end of it, we're all going to die, and we're going to go meet our maker or Gaia, whoever whatever you think it is.
Right.
And all this stuff, that the division stuff, doesn't matter. Have you lived a good life? Have you been a good person? A lot of people haven't. And they don't remember what it was to be a good person.
And that is what unnerves me, because this experiment called America rests on the fact that you and I have made some kind of agreement that we're going to live as a particular type of people. There is nothing that separates you and I from the rest of the world except for the U.S. Constitution.
That's it.
It is a set of rules and laws that we as a nation have said, I'm going to submit myself to these, right? And if we begin now to say, well, some people will submit themselves to these, but other people can find loopholes to these, and we'll be perfectly okay with the hypocrisy of it, right? It would be rules for thee, but not for me. It does not work. It's going to create chaos, right? Because I will begin to feel like, well, if you're not following the rules, why do I have to follow the rules? And it just doesn't work. And I used to ask my students all the time, what separates us from the rest of the world? You know, because we think, you know, in America, we're the biggest, we're the baddest, we're the greatest, and everyone else, you know, not so much. But what do you think separates us from, you know, a large portion of the world? And they would start with themselves. I was like, no, it's not about you. I know your mama thinks it's about you, but it's not about you. It is the U.S. Constitution.
Yes.
And we, like John Adam has said, we're moving through it now like a whale moves through a net because we lack courage. We lack this simple thing called common sense. We've kicked God out of everything. You know, your morality is whatever you want it to be, right?
Right.
You just make it up as you go, right? It doesn't work that way. Not in a civilized society. We have to come to some common beliefs. And right now, those common beliefs are being challenged and upended.
I think we need to start focusing on the 99.9% of the things that we all want.
Yes.
Instead of the 1%,
life,
0.1% that makes
liberty,
in the pursuit
of happiness.
And for everybody, one of the biggest things for me at the end of the day was, you guys are familiar with what happened in Australia over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And you don't see it on the mainstream media, but you see on deep, dark pockets of social media, you see Australians crying, saying, America, don't fall. You're the beacon of light for all of us. And it's because of the Bill of Rights and the First and Second Amendment. Because they always say when the first one doesn't work out, that's why we have the second one. Mm-hmm. And it's not against protecting people from walking into my grocery store and robbing me. It was written to protect me from a tyrannical government.
And that is very unnerving for me. Because, I mean, I have seen war, not personally been involved in it, but we don't want that in this country, right? And I believe the best way to secure our nation is for people to just stand up and speak truth. To say, I agree with this. This is why. I don't agree with that. This is why. The emperor has no clothes on. That is hypocrisy. This is dumb. This doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to do it. That is so much simpler,
right,
and so much more effective than the notion that we're going to create some civil war. God forbid that happens in this nation today. I believe the greatest weapon is truth.
So I just to clarify, I hope I wasn't advocating for that.
No, I don't believe you were.
So,
but it's true.
I agree. But here's the other thing I agree with. I agree with the idea that you can't, there's no way to move forward unless people are willing to shut their mouths and open their ears and listen. Because sometimes there are ideas that aren't yours that are better ideas. And you got to be willing to listen to it. And if you don't, if you say, just because you're on that team, I'm not going to listen to you.
Right.
That's how they get you. They keep pushing. There's a nudge. Jordan Peterson talks about this. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's okay. He goes, they push and then they pull back, and they push and then they pull back, and they push and they pull back. And before you realize it, they've gained 300 miles on you. And you have you're like, how did that happen? Where was I not paying attention? And you never noticed it because it's just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. And then eventually.
I say it all the time. Now you said it so much more, edumacated, like.
Oh, thanks for using that word.
Edumacated. I always give the analogy of a frog in boiling water.
Or a lobster. Same thing.
Yeah. I haven't heard the lobster one.
But that's why you don't throw them in boiling water. They'll hop right out. Put them in and then you turn it on.
Really? Yeah. Well, I know about the frog, right? Like you put them in lukewarm water And then before you know, you just turn it up a little bit, turn it up a little bit. And each time you turn it up, the frog just kind of nudges around and try to find a new normal.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm uncomfortable, but I can.
Let me just, and then before you know it, he's dead. Right.
Right.
And that's what Democrats are doing. And not all Democrats.
No.
I mean, my family overwhelmingly Democrat, and they're good people. If they voted their values, they would be voting Republican right about now, right? Not because Republicans are the best. It's just that we have better ideas than what Democrats are coming up with right now, overwhelmingly, right? So it's not all Democrats, but right now, generalizing, the Democrat Party, they have put their foot on our throat these past 2 years. Now it's election season time. Now they're taking their foot off a little bit. But after May 17th is primary, I am predicting Black Lives Matter, Antifa, the media, all of this is going to come back like a bad case of herpes. And where they had their foot on our throat, they're going to be shoving it down our throats. That's the frog in boiling water. Right now, they've kind of let up, but then they're going to come back again.
I agree with you. I think it's going to happen. And I think Philadelphia's talking about locking down again and doing masks and all that stuff. It's going to come back.
It's going to come back.
Fear is Goebbels said this. And not to bring up World War II, but when the Nuremberg trials, he said, it doesn't matter whether you're Nazi, fascist, capitalist, communist. He goes, the best way to manipulate people is fear. This is the thing you need to be afraid of. And we are the only ones that can save you from it. Mm-hmm. And when you have people afraid enough, you can get them to do anything.
I mean, look at people. I mean, like, people know only N95 mask works, and yet they're walking around.
No. So we had a nurse on. We had a nurse on our podcast. She's like, N95 mask, like, it has to be pressure tested, and it's only good for a couple of hours. And this is in a hospital setting. Yeah. Not to go into Target.
Right. Yeah. But yet I'm watching people in a car by themselves in a field all alone wearing a mask. I'm like, oh my goodness.
I empathize with them to a point because I'm like, you don't know. You just don't know. And
it's revealing the psychosis that is among us. Like, before, they walked among us and we didn't know. Now the mask allows us to identify psychosis, break from reality.
It's like wearing a propeller hat. Yeah, you're just like, oh, that's
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for being an amazing human being. And I will. You'll never know on election day, but I'll probably vote for you.
Okay.
Wow. That's pretty good.
I don't like anybody to know where I'm going. It just, they're like,
he's mine,
I'm on your
y'all.
team.
He's mine.
This
Praise the Lord.
First time he's taken over my podcast.
Yeah, I didn't mean to do that, Chris. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Elmo.
I appreciate it.
Thrilled you were here. Thank you. You guys got to keep moving. You got a busy
I wish
day.
you the best of luck.
Yes,
you're going to do a great job.
I am you. So when I win, you win.
Thank you.
Remember that.
Well, you better win then.
Blessing.
You're going to come back for another podcast when you win, right?
When I win, I love that.
All right.
Come on.
Blessings.
And then you got to find like an hour and a half for me.
Yes.
Awesome.
Well, that was a great show. We had a lot of fun. Kathy's a spitfire. She turned things around. The interview at the end, I think, was great. So, take a good look at Kathy. Get on her website. Don't forget to share, like our podcast, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbors. I'm trying to get this out there. So, and I appreciate everybody and all your support. So thank you. We'll look forward to another episode.